Hello and welcome. I'm happy to see you here tonight. Also happy to be speaking with you tonight. My name is Nick Abraham and my family connections are Abraham, Bennell, Humphrey, Hume, Mippy, Worrell, Nettle, Harris. And our connections to country, which is Wajak, the Budja we're standing on today. Also to Ewart, which is to the north of Wajak, to Balladong, which is to the east of Wajak, Wilman, which is to the southeast of Wajak, Bingerup, which is to the south of Wajak, and Wadandi, which is to the south of Bingerup. Nijin Yunga Budja, Nijin Yunga Wanki. This is the Yunga country, Budja, and this is Yunga language that I'm speaking. Koranara Cockburn, and now Yunga Bridia, Koranija, and Burkmore Guinea. Nunok Guinea. Just paying respect to the elders past and present, but also acknowledging and paying respects to you for being here today for this very important rally. Nunukot Karajan Mam and Demon Mam, Na Yunga Bridia, Kura Kura. So when Yunga people were given our knowledge through the oral tradition as passed down from our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our mums and dads, and our Yunga bosses from long, long ago, they always tell us about our history. And they always say, Mil Judy, use your eyes to see. Dwonk Ne, use your ears to listen. Court courage, use your head and your heart to understand. Understand our history. Our history. Our history about our people, our Murut and Yunga Murut, our families. Where we connected to, where we come from. But there's also a modern word for that. It's called eugenics. Eugenics is keeping your bloodlines pure. So we weren't allowed to marry close blood. We had to keep our bloodlines pure for many, many generations. So that was first introduced by a scientist by the name of Francis Colebrook in 1883, eugenics in the Western world. Yet our people have been practicing that for many, 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 many generations before that word was even introduced. Next I want to talk about is I call Yunga Bidi. No direct translation between Yunga and English. Yunga is our people, Bidi the path that we've been on for many, many generations. Translating that to culture. I could ask, what is culture? Culture could be many things, but I'll just give you a couple. One is values, one is beliefs, one is spirituality, one is language and values. If you was to ask someone about that today, they would look at that and say, oh, values, spirituality, beliefs, language, that sounds like religion. Culture is a religion. Next, I want to talk about Cardigan. Cardigan is our knowledge system. Because our old people understood and knew the relationship between the sun, the stars, the moon, the plants, the animals, the people, the seasons, and how we live sustainably in this Budja for many, many, many generations. Anybody want to learn about the stars, the sun or the moon today? They would have to learn about science. Our old people knew that, how to look after this country. Next I want to talk about is court word. Court is my heart, word is my spirit. Like translating to well-being. So our old people knew when our mind and body and spirit was out of balance, how this system brought it back in. That was like our health system, and that was functioning. All connected to our budget, because that's where all our laws and our values and our customs come from. And our old people knew that we look after the country will look after us. One more. That was our Yunga Bridias, our elders, because it was their responsibility of overlooking this system and making sure it stayed in place for many, 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 many generations. And that functioned in this country. Unfortunately, in the early 1800s, the British arrived. They saw this, they ignored this, and they're imposed their own system onto us. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but through that process, we had disruption to our governance system, our elders. We had disruption to our families and our moral system. We had disruption to our culture. We had disruption to our knowledge system and how we looked after this country. And we had disruption to our health system. And all that process disconnected us from our Budja. And that's where we are today in my community. Here today, in that concept. Nijamort, we're Nijanyim. The despite all this disruption, our people's spirits are still here. Despite this disruption, our spirit stories are still here. Despite this disruption, we are still here. You are here. And we look forward to how we can come together in the 21st century so that we can try to heal some of this disruption and go forward for tomorrow. Nala Barman getting Nala Yaya, Waterang getting. Thank you, and hopefully I'll see you later.
Thank you, Nick. You do a great job in welcoming everybody and able to provide, I think, a snapshot of reflects what we're all here for this evening and what we want to see in our community. As you all know, Council are meeting tonight. It's the purpose of us gathering here. So we'd like to bring up our first speaker and invite our Mayor up to speak so that he can go through to Council meeting shortly ahead of us.
Thank you, Kaya, and good evening to everyone on this very chilly evening. I came down without my jacket. I thought I'll just zip down, say a few words and get back in upstairs. But thanks for the opportunity to say a few words, and I thank everyone for being here, as I said, on this very chilly evening. And also acknowledge that we have the Honourable Lynn McLaren here. Good to see. I haven't seen Lynn for a little while. Councillor Philip Evie, JP, his wife Michelle. Councillor Stone just coming down the steps, and Daniel Ard, our acting Chief Executive Officer, and of course Aboriginal leaders who we have a very high regard for. And I too acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, the traditional custodians of the land in which we're gathered tonight, and pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal people that are here. And of course other people who are here to support the cause. As we know, the City of Cockburn, in terms of systemic racial statements or comments or actions or activities, we strongly oppose those, and we believe there's no place in our community, in our society, indeed anywhere in the world, for these things to be occurring. The City of Cockburn is a very multicultural community, where people have come from the four corners of the earth. Many of those people, aside from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who've been here for 60,000 years or more, have come from countries where they've been oppressed, they've been subject to all sorts of things which have impacted on their life, their families. They've arrived in Australia seeking a new way of life and a way forward. And I'm very pleased that we have a very multicultural society. Each and every one of our citizenship ceremonies, we have anywhere, on average, people coming from 28 different nations. But of course we know collectively in the City of Cockburn is represented by people from over 70 nations. So that's quite an amazing scenario. And of course, those people have blended in very well into our community, very accepting. And of course, they bring with them their customs, their cultures, their practices, which I encourage for them to share with everybody, as I do with the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people. We need to understand about music, song and dance, about your history, about the experiences that you've had. And I said at the rally here on the Saturday morning a few weeks ago, my family's been, on my father's side, have been in Australia for 202 years. They were amongst the first settlers arriving in New South Wales as convicts, and they've gone on to have a very productive life, mainly in New South Wales, but of course those who ventured further afield into Western Australia, we've had a very good life as well. And from all accounts, from reading diaries and accounts, the Howlett family got on very well with Aboriginal people. They were involved in a lot of the exploration with Burke and Wills and other explorers out of New South Wales. And they always made a count in their diaries of how well they live, but importantly, when they were out exploring, their lives were in the hands of the Aboriginal people, because the early settlers really had no idea about food sources, water sources once they got out and were heading over the Blue Mountains into further inland itself. And so we have very important lessons to learn, and I believe through our family we've carried that forward, the respect and values that we have for the First Nation people in Australia. There's a respected value that we cherish in our family, and we promote at every single opportunity. Tonight we're receiving a deputation from some of the Aboriginal community representatives before our council meeting, and importantly we'll be looking at other considerations later in the meeting in terms of cultural awareness training. The recommendation is that every elected member and every member of the executive team attend cultural awareness training as a mandated requirement, and that after every period of elections, every 2 years, that same form of training and further enhancements are conducted, and elected members are exposed to that. Probably in my working career, my other life in local government, I've been to I don't know how many sessions to do with cultural awareness training, received presentations from Aboriginal elders, and I've always found it to be very exciting, very informative presentations, and we're looking forward to that matter being considered by council tonight itself. We've also arranged a deputation to the Minister for Local Government. We'll be meeting with, unfortunately not with the Minister, which is what we were planning to do. We'll be meeting with the Minister's Chief of Staff, and we'll be talking about the systemic racial discrimination that is occurring in our community and wider afield, and putting that case forward. And I think there's a petition which will be lodged with the Minister's office as well, that's been collected and around the district and further afield. And that's again an important message to get to the Minister for Local Government, that things need to change, and we need the support of the Minister for Local Government's office in bringing about those changes in our community. Indeed, we need that from the federal, state and all local governments across Australia.
Woohoo!
So thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, and as always, my wife Pat and I, we have a very close association with all good things that are happening in Cockburn, and one of those is the sharing of stories and knowledge and experiences from the particularly the Noongar people. So thank you very much. Take care, stay safe, and you'll see tonight we have social distancing requirements in the council chamber. There'll be important things for you to follow. So thank you.
Thank you. Woo!
Thank you. So we do have some exciting things, I think, happening within the City of Cockburn that the Mayor has talked about. Might just quickly want to reflect before I bring the next speaker up on the cultural awareness sessions that are going to be proposed to be compulsory to elected members. I think that's a great move, but I just also don't want to play down the fact that Councillor Separovich has had every opportunity to engage with Noongar and Aboriginal people on many occasions. And he still has the attitude and behaves in the way he does today, regardless of those experiences. One cultural awareness session is not enough. The reason that the Mayor is because he sits with our people, he talks with our people, he respects our people, he's actively engaged in our community. Councillor Separovich is not that kind of person. So I don't feel the cultural awareness training is going to shift his mindset one bit, because we've already tried this with him. But well done on bringing that in for the rest of our councils. And now I'd like to invite Auntie Jenny Knapp.
Woo! Where's she go? There she is.
Should have had a song prepared for Nyungaroki. I'm sorry I didn't. I'll get one in before the end of the night.
Hi everyone.
Kaya.
Okay. Michael Separovich. I offer you words of wisdom and inspiration as a Noongar elder within the Cockburn Aboriginal community and a member with the Western Australia Party and an Aboriginal woman in politics. This was offered to you before from our ARG group, the group you state as a shit show to the local government's Reconciliation Action Plan. If you feel strongly and have negative views of the First Nations people, why did you put your hand up to be elected? As a councillor with the Cockburn Council, you have refused to come and sit with us, see what we do, and the people that walk with us. As an elder and you a young man emerging from your ethnic heritage that is so strong within the Cockburn community throughout the early settlers, Michael Separovich, this is a message for you. You speak of representing the ratepayers in Cockburn area. Well, those ratepayers are also Aboriginal people who most probably voted for you. We, the Noongar people of this land, have walked with you for over 200 years or more. 200,000 years or more. Come walk with us on a shared path. As a young man that people look towards as their elected councillor, with knowledge of who we are, the Aboriginal people of this land. Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to remember. I think we may invite Brooke now to be our next speaker. Will you introduce your role so I don't have to?
Hi everyone, my name is Councillor Brooke O'Donnell. I actually am a councillor with the City of Kalamunda. I'm a Balgu Yamaji woman. This is not my country, but I thank everyone in the Noongar Nation for letting me live here for the last 36 years. Obviously I'm 36. So I just wanted to talk about, I guess, my thoughts and also give you an update in terms of what some local government elected councillors are doing in terms of trying to work within our systems to try and get some change, and hopefully between all of the systems we can get some really good outcomes. Fairness, equality and social justice do flow through everything that local government does, and the diversity in our country is what brings richness to all of our communities, and we need to be working together to valuing our community diversity, and in this instance our local Aboriginal communities. If we are to be wholly committed to equality, diversity and inclusion, we need to be doing all we can to ensure we are at the forefront of confronting racism and discrimination in whatever form it appears. Let me be clear. In response to those who have attempted to divide the community members, elected government councillors, we've come together to create the group Elected Members Against Racism and Discrimination, or MRAD. It's not an airline because we're not going anywhere. Together, we've submitted recommendations which was actually passed unanimously, to my surprise, to the State Council, which is made up of all of the 138 local government councils, through 24 members, asking for working group established through the WA Local Government Association to investigate what is happening in our local governments. We are seeking to determine a scope of works and a term of reference for the investigation, and later we will make recommendations to councils for measures that will combat racism and create better relationships between communities and their councils. The prevalence of racism and discrimination in the community affects our well-being and culturally and linguistically diverse people as well, and it's a participation barrier in the broader community life and reconciliation. Racism and ignorance has no place in any community, in this community, governments, and absolutely no place right here. Elected representatives need to challenge racism and ignorance and foster pride and harmony within the broader community. It's a personal priority for me to address the learned biasness and archaic attitudes and overcome that. Councils must ensure all elected representatives undertake this cultural awareness training. Obviously we didn't match our speeches, so that's great. And sensitivity relating to people, Aboriginal people and those of culturally diverse backgrounds. Importantly, we need to ensure elected members understand their responsibilities, represent themselves with dignity and decorum across social media, and those who breach the bounds of equity and decency are brought to heel. They were elected to represent all of the members of their community, not merely those who may just look like them or speak their languages. I have experienced and continue to experience racism in the course of my role as an elected member, and I stand with those who also experience discrimination. I can assure you there are many other men and women who have been and continue to be affected by racist barbs and microaggression. So we need to deal with it. We need to make it clear it's unacceptable, and we need to call it out and keep calling it out until it's stopped. In the case of Cockburn, the issue is more than just this maverick councillor demonstrating his appalling bigotry on social media. Even if he is removed and receives training, we know that other local government entities and councillors will continue this problem and will be protected and excused. We know that there are these other councillors who somehow thinks that they have some sort of parliamentary privilege to insult and alienate portions of their constituency. They must be accountable for their actions. I stand with all councils in WA and beyond that in their work to tackle racism and discrimination now and into the future. Let us build our councils to be reflective of our community's diversity. Let us cause reform to occur and give our diverse communities leadership that they can rely on, and councillors who will listen, learn and support them. Thank you.
No one wants to listen. I'm not singing yet. Thank you. Exciting things happening there, and we're certainly supporting you in any way that we can here as as Noongar people, but also as people from this community and broader. We'll now bring Jess.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Williams and I'm the founder of a local organisation called the Direct Action Movement, and we've been assisting Heidi and Gail and other members of the Aboriginal Reference Group with this campaign for a couple of months. Sorry, I'm shaking, I'm a little cold. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge that I am a visitor on Wajak Buja and this land was never ceded. I pay my respect to your elders, past, present and emerging, and I acknowledge the ongoing contribution that Noongar people make to this area, the culture, water and land. I want to thank Heidi for giving me this opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you to everyone that is here to take a stand against the racist comments and actions of Cockburn Councillor Michael Separovich. I was asked to speak tonight about systemic racism, and to be honest, at first I was apprehensive. I'm a Wodula. I'm actually from America. What do I know about systemic racism? But perhaps my perspective on this can help other white people make the connection and understand what systemic racism is. I haven't always understood what systemic racism meant or what it looked like within our society or what white privilege really meant for someone like me. For a long time, it was really difficult for me to accept that I had white privilege because a lot of really terrible things have happened to me throughout my life. I used to think, how in the hell can I be privileged? But I eventually realized that a lot of those terrible things that I lived through were either random or actually happened to me because I was a woman. And women, as a class of humans, face systemic oppression because we live in a patriarchal society that favors men. Once I figured out that what had happened to me on the micro level was a part of something bigger on the macro level, it was really easy and natural for me to understand what systemic racism was. I began to understand from a Wodula's perspective the complex nature of generational trauma, of genocide, loss of culture, loss of language, loss of children and family, the complex nature of systemic racism. I learned how to start recognizing racism within myself, in ads, TV shows, and within the laws, systems, and beliefs that we operate under within this society. Because sadly, we also live in a racist society that favors people with white skin. I finally understood that my skin color was not a cause of my oppression and that it actually gave me natural advantages, and that's white privilege. Now I endeavor to be anti-racist, to actively take a stand against racism on the micro and macro levels, and I strive to show this through my organization too. After seeing the disgusting comments from Separovich, and after seeing his malicious attempt to sabotage the local Black Lives Matter movement, and after learning that his racist language and behavior had gone unaddressed on an official level for 2 years, I knew I had to take action. So I reached out to Heidi and I asked if my organization could help in any way. And as simple as that, the momentum for this campaign grew. I believe with all of my heart that connecting with one another like this and uniting is our strongest asset as people that are up against political and corporate monsters. I believe with all of my heart that we have the ability to change this world for the better in every way necessary, but we need to look in our own backyards, in our communities, and make sure we are supporting local fights for justice. And we must look within ourselves and become familiar again with our humanity. We are all a part of the same community and we are all connected. The COVID pandemic humbled us and showed the world that our actions on an individual level can have a massive impact on our neighbors and even people on the other side of the planet. So let's remember that when we see injustice, we can make a difference. And I know that our actions within this campaign have already made an impact in that building. We've got the mayor supporting our efforts to have Councillor Separovich removed. We've got Cockburn councillors supporting this campaign. We have all of you beautiful people here tonight taking action. And there are hundreds of others that have sent emails or made phone calls to David Templeman and signed our petitions. So we need everyone here to keep caring and about this campaign and about this issue, keep talking about it, keep sharing. And we need even more of our community members to take action against racism on all levels. We need to speak up against casual racism at work, at school, and when we're out with friends. We need to speak out against racist stereotypes. We need to be listening to Black and Indigenous people, supporting their business, their art, supporting their grassroots fight for land rights, equality, equity, and common decency. We need to keep signing petitions, keep protesting, and keep doing what we are here doing right now, uniting and demanding change, demanding that Michael Separovich be removed from office as an elected member of Cockburn Council. Thank you.
Thank you. I just thought I would mention, we have a Noongar lady I think I referred to in the last rally that we had, who has been actively trolled by Separovich. Her name is Carla Hart, and I'm mentioning her name because you know, she's definitely supportive of our cause here and hopes that we see some outcomes. But Councillor Separovich has trolled both her personal and her professional page. Carla Hart, you may have seen Yokai, the footy show on the TV. You know, she directs that, produces that. And recently they were really successful with their move with Sam Newman's disgusting behaviour. And so I just want to acknowledge that when people say it's a little bit harsh asking for Councillor Separovich to be dismissed, it's actually not harsh at all. This is what this man deserves. There are people like Sam Newman and Pauline Hanson who are not given the airtime anymore because we will not accept racism. And this is what we're saying here in Cockburn, is we will not accept racism here either. So I know Carla's here with us in spirit, and I'm very proud of the movement that's happening around the rest of the nation to stamp out the behaviour like this. Last but not least, before I open to anyone else who may want to get up, I'd like to bring Gail Beck forward. For what?
Hi everyone, I'm not normally a public speaker, so shame on you, Heidi, calling me last minute. Look, this has been ongoing forever. There's many of us that can share a story from a child copying flack, copying abuse, etc., and you know, at the end of the day, enough's enough, and people might say, I know, what's his name up there, I couldn't say his name before, it's not worth me saying his name, thinks that this is a small crowd, but this crowd grows. You know, you'll tell somebody and it will grow, a little bit like COVID. And so I have great faith that also that Australia now is full of, well, like the Mayor said, you know, hundreds of other cultures here. And I know they've felt the sting of racism. So we need to collectively work together to wipe it out. There's no need for it. We're all human beings at the end of the day. And I'm proud to say Heidi and I will be up in council It will be live streamed. You won't see us though, you'll see them. And we're just going to put it to the table, and it's about racism. We've been informed we can only talk about that. But we'll eyeball him when we talk about it. I'm really grateful those that of you that are here today come on this journey with us. It's been a long journey. I'm 62. My first experience was when I was 4, others probably earlier. It's just too much, and I'm coming to the stage I'll do a Ernie Dingo and snot them. And I'm not a violent person, so I don't want to be doing that. So thank you all again. Maintain the rage, and let's make this big change.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to say that we've had near, I think, around 700 signatures on the petition that we have for Minister. So I also want to say that we had another very successful Black Lives Matter rally on the weekend, that people in the community I know are tired. So I don't want to, whilst the numbers aren't large here tonight, Minister Templeman and City of Cockburn need to understand that many, many people are supporting this cause. And I do respect and appreciate those who have stayed in the warmth of their home, but have written to council. Complaints have been flowing in.
Yep.
We know that council has a inquiry now, and probably not just relating to that. Maybe not just relating to that. I believe other complaints have come through, but there's a tension here at Cockburn. The Minister has now we've got his attention, and I'm very grateful for all the people who have been able to submit, sign the petitions or submit complaints, because every little bit helps, right? Every little bit helps.
Yeah.
So thank you to everybody. Also, just want to speak quickly to the younger generation, and we had invited some youth speakers here this evening, and they were apologies at last minute. But I do want to reflect on the fact that Aboriginal people are the largest users of social media. So contrary to a lot of belief, you know, I'm on TikTok and I see blackfellas everywhere on there. It's so cool. But when we run programs and things, the way we communicate with each other is often through social media, right? Because it's the easiest way. Councillor Separovich, he's a troll online. So when he trolls people, he is having a massive impact on the younger generation in particular, who are on social media all the time.
And he actually boasts about that on his page.
He does boast about it on his page, he rubbishes single mums and young people, and I'm a single mum of 3 young people, 3 girls, 6, 13 and 15. But I've actively worked in this community my whole life. I've grown up here and worked here with the young people, and we wanted to have their voice. I'm not speaking for them tonight, but what I am saying is that the impacts of the racist remarks from him is really having its toll on the younger generation.
Yeah.
The Black Lives Matter stuff, every moment that we're looking at the TV and social media, we can't escape this. Young people can't escape this at the moment. And they're finding it very, very hard. And as parents, we find it very hard to protect them from this. I see Councillor Separovich like a little kid playing in a sandpit. He should not be up here in a meeting with adults who are here to represent the views of our community.
Right.
So until he gets that, it is time for him to leave, because we can't wrap our kids in cotton wool any more than we are, and we need to protect the younger generation and show them that there is goodwill and good people out in our community, because we know that there are. So I want to acknowledge all the young people that I know couldn't come here tonight and couldn't speak and share their passion, and I want you all to know that we have your back, that we love and support you and we care for you. And we will continue to fight this, whether you're here with us in person or you're sitting at home or wherever you are. And thank all the younger generation for all their efforts in today's politics.
Woo!
So we're going to head up to council shortly to eyeball Separovich. But before we do, I'd like to invite anyone else to come forward and comment. Yes, thank you.
I just
I didn't
noticed
want
that.
you to do it in the cold more. Look, I'm really privileged, and what I heard from Nick, who welcomed the country. Nick, sorry, I didn't get your name, and the councillor from Kalamunda, and yourself from US, and all the lovely people here who are supporting this cause. I'm amazed at the power of unity. And as someone said, we are like COVID-20, not 19. We will spread. I'm telling you, this is not going to stop. You know, in a school, if a child misbehaves, the teacher says, please behave well. Once, twice, 3 times. Somebody has done mischief 18 times, 18 breaches, and yet we will let that person go unaccounted? I'm sorry, no.
Yeah.
We are not that weak. We got to stand up against these people. I mean, I was surprised to see the arrogance on the TV. You know, he's saying only 35 people came. Every person is like a million voice. We will spread this voice. I'm telling you, we are not going to stop. Heidi and Gail and everyone else is doing so wonderfully well. We are behind you. We are behind every repression in the community, whether it is indigenous, whether it is, again, any country, any color, or anyone. We are a united community, and I've been here 17 years, and I love Cockburn, and I love this council. You know, the people here are beautiful, but some people have to be, you know, taken action against, and I'm sure we will. So without much ado, I think we are all feeling cold. Wish you all the, we have full faith in Gail and Heidi to represent us upstairs. Go for it.
Anyone else like to come forward and share any words before we move upstairs? So we're going to post to our events page the link to the live stream, Councillor, for the first time live streaming, as we spoke about. We will put that up there so you can, it's just audio, I believe, not video, so you'll be able to hear what is being said, and we look forward to seeing what happens up there tonight. But more importantly, follow the events page, because we'll give an update after our meeting with the Minister's office next week. And this fight is not over until Councillor Separovich is moved from City of Cockburn. We will make that very, very clear that that is our objective, first and foremost. And secondly, to support the elected members against racism and discrimination, to see the legislation and policy change that we need to see across the state, so that we don't have to deal with this again, and we can fight those other issues of systemic racism in the community. Thank you, everybody.